Wood seemingly didn't do anything in '64, but '65 would see the release of Ed Wood's first plunge into erotica with Orgy of the Dead, where he was screenwriter and assistant director, and he wrote a paperback novelization of this film, which was published in '66. In 1967, Wood was a plot consultant for the film For Love and Money, which was an adaptation of his own novel, Sexecutives. He would then lay low in '68, but 1969 was pretty busy for him. He would act in and write the screenplay for Operation Red Light, a film that was based on another novel of his, Mama's Diaries, in which he wrote under the name Dick Trent. He would also be a screenwriter for the film Gunrunner and a screenwriter for the film 1 Million AC/DC, a movie that's about a bunch of horny cavemen. And then there's the film The Photographer, which has a lot of mystery surrounding it. Now, he did write the screenplay and act in it, but there are those who say that he also directed it. However, he went uncredited because this is his most humiliating role. I guess it's because he didn't want anyone to know that he directed himself to do this. But that's neither here nor there, and it's all hearsay, so let's just move on. As we turn the corner to 1970, we see the end of Ed Wood's career in sight. However, that does not mean he didn't do a lot of work. These last remaining years of his career were pretty busy. However, this is around the time when he started doing what was basically considered porn. Yes, from cheesy to sleazy, the last decade of Ed Wood's career, and also his life, would see him make the switch to doing mainly erotica films, basically because that's the only work he could get. Yes, he directed, wrote the screenplay for, and/or acted in films such as Mrs. Stone's Thing, Excited, Take It Out and Trade, The Young Marrieds, Nymphocycler, The Only House in Town, Dropout Wife, The Undergraduate, The Cocktail Hostesses, The Class Reunion, Snow Bunnies, Beach Bunnies. Well, you get the idea. The last years of Ed Wood's life weren't all that pleasant, and it's an era that most people don't really like to focus on, because it is better to think of him as a mastermind behind campy monster movies instead of a sleazy screenwriter living in what was described as boozy poverty, making bad porn. The epilogue of the Tim Burton Ed Wood movie does touch on this fate. However, it does describe it in a relatively rose-tinted way. Now, the 70s wouldn't see Ed Wood do all awful erotica. He would also do just some plain awful movies as well, or at least be associated with them in some form. There's The Venus Flytrap, also known as The Revenge of Dr. X, a sci-fi horror flick in which Ed Wood is an uncredited screenwriter because it's based on a screenplay that he wrote in 1950. And then there's Necromania, which is sort of porn, but it's more of a horror flick, which is based on Ed Wood's novel, The Only House. And oddly enough, Ed Wood's porno flick, The Only House in Town, isn't based on this. You'd think it would be. And then there's Hot Ice from 1978, where Ed Wood was assistant to the director and even had a cameo that was later cut because he was too drunk. And sadly, that would be his last film because he would pass away later on that same year. The 70s would also see some projects of Ed Wood's that would never come to fruition. Like in 1976, there was supposed to be a film called The Day the Mummies Danced, in which Ed Wood wrote the screenplay for. However, he could never find a producer. But in 1977, he would make his triumphant return, of sorts, to making straight-up horror movies with Meat Cleaver Massacre, in which he worked under the pseudonym of Evan Lee and replaced director Keith Burns. This film does feature Christopher Lee, however, it was footage from previously tagged projects that wasn't shot for this movie.
Watch the full episode here, as well as other classic Cat Nanos VHS pirate ship adventures, and please hit subscribe.